Good morning and welcome. This is NDTV Profit. My name is Alex Mathew and you're watching All You Need to Know. Over the course of the next half an hour, we'll tell you everything that you need to know to start your day on the right note. Let's start with the headlines. Paytm's Vijay Shekhar Sharma meets Finance Minister, is told to deal directly with the Reserve Bank of India. That's an NDTV Profit exclusive. Chanda Kochhar's arrest by the CBI is deemed illegal, and that's according to the Bombay High Court. It upholds the earlier interim bail. Regional players give Britannia tough competition, eat into its business. Profits dip in the third quarter. US markets end the day flat. The S&P 500 climbs 0.2% to end near record close. And Asian markets open mixed. Japan's Nikkei 225 is the sole loser among the early risers. Now, it was a day of narrow gains for US equities. The Dow and the S&P 500 gaining about 0.4 and 0.2% respectively, while the Nasdaq, and that's a Nasdaq composite, ended flat. S&P 500, of course, ended just 4 points shy of its record close of 4,958.6. That's as investors assess a slew of earnings from the broader markets. Asian markets are currently trading mixed as we speak. In fact, let's pull up some of those for you right now. You have the Nikkei 225, which is trading with narrow cuts. But of course, you have Chinese stocks that have gained quite significantly in the anticipation that the Chinese government will step in with measures to bolster the stock market. In the commodity space, oil was steady this morning after a two-day gain, with the markets dealing with both geopolitical risk in West Asia as well as a report showing stockpiles expanding in the US. Houthis said that they targeted two ships in the southern Red Sea area, and meanwhile the American Petroleum Institute in the US has said that nationwide crude inventories grew by as much as 674,000 barrels last week. Both of those are based on Bloomberg reports. Brent is currently trading at under $80 to the barrel as we speak. Now, let's turn attention to the Indian equity markets. And you saw, of course, gains in trade yesterday. But where are we headed today? What are the latest cues from the F&O space? Agam is joining in to tell you just that. Agam, what are the cues telling you this morning?
Well, good morning, Alex. We are looking at consolidations. That's something that we've been expecting, and that's something that's been panning out as well. Yesterday, we did see some advances for the Nifty, in fact, up around 0.7%, with a near 2% added in open interest in terms of its futures. The Bank Nifty, on the other hand, well, showed a little bit more weakness, down by about 0.3%, with a near 8% added in open interest towards what it does seem like it's shorts. It was a Fin Nifty expiry yesterday, of course, which ended flattish yesterday. But let's talk about the options market. And that's where we are seeing a little bit more writing around the puts. Of course, we haven't really moved well above the mark of 22,000, but a lot of put writing around the mark of 21,500 to 21,800. As you can see here, some amount of unwinding in calls as well. And let's talk about the overall open interest. Well, this range has actually shifted higher, as you can see, because max OI in calls has now reached 22,500, and the max OI in put has also moved higher at around 21,700. This is, of course, good news for the bulls. And, moving on, let's also talk about the Bank Nifty. It is the weekly options expiry in 46,000 will be crucial. It will be an important mark to keep an eye on. And that's as far as, the ranges that we are working with are concerned, Alex. Overall, expecting consolidation, but it could be a choppy day because of the Bank Nifty expiry.
Certainly. Thanks so much, Agam, for pointing that out. Let's turn to an exclusive that we have for you this morning. This is the latest in the Paytm saga, and this relates to a meeting that Vijay Shekhar Sharma had with the finance minister yesterday. But we've got Pragati to tell you what happened in that meeting and what happens going forward as well. Pragati, what can you tell us?
Yes, so Vijay Shekhar Sharma, according to our sources, met the finance minister on Tuesday evening around 5:30, and primarily he met the finance minister seeking help with regards to what has recently happened with Paytm Payments Bank, and specifically referring to the RBI clampdown that happened on 31st Jan. From what we know from our sources is that the finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, showed Vijay Shekhar Sharma the door and said that it is best for the company and him to deal with the regulator, that is the RBI, directly directly, and there will be no involvement of the finance ministry in this entire thing. Now, we also know that Vijay Shekhar Sharma even spoke about the fact the larger repercussions or the impact of RBI's clampdown on Paytm Payments Bank can have on the fintech industry, and hence he was trying to seek support and help from the ministry in this regard. However, like we already mentioned, that the finance minister said that it is best for them to deal directly with the RBI, and nothing more actually came out of this meeting. That's exactly what we know from our sources. If we have more, we will bring back to you.
All right, thanks so much for bringing us those details. Like Pragati said, we will stay with that story through the day and bring you live updates. Now, Pharma major Lupin is expected to come out with its earnings report today for the third quarter, and a major jump in the profit is on the cards. Monal is here to tell you why that is. Morning, Monal. Monal, what can you tell us?
Morning, Alex. Yes, it's actually been quite a week for Pharma because we've been seeing an up move in the Nifty for sure. Lupin, there is an expectation that the profits will come at around 433 crores, which is around 183% higher. But this, mind you, is on the back of certain one-offs that existed in the base quarter as well. However, EBITDA also they're expecting should be up by around 70%. Revenue up, and EBITDA margins at 18%. So now the key monitorables here of what we should be looking out for is whether the margins come in at 18%, because this is what the management had guided in the first quarter, and this is how they look to end the quarter. So this will determine how the stock will react. Also, the growth in the India business. So Lupin has been suffering from volume growth issues in the India business, and also price issues because certain drugs were included under the essential medicines list, that is regulated pricing this year. So what is happening on the India front is also a key thing to watch out. US performance and the kind of price erosion the company is going to suffer is also something that's going to matter. And one of its key drugs, the generic version of Spiriva, and its contribution to the overall revenue will be a monitorable. Also, what sort of launch pipeline will the company use? That's important.
Right. Thanks so much for getting us those details. Of course, we'll bring you live updates when we get those numbers as well and the analysis of that. Let's turn to another story. The Bombay High Court has granted relief to former ICICI Bank Chief Executive Officer Chanda Kochhar and her husband by accepting the petition challenging the CBI arrest. Charu Singh is joining in to give you some more context about what the court said and what the context of this case is. Charu, morning. What can you tell us?
Hi, Alex. So what has happened in this case is that an interim bail that was granted to the coaches has just been confirmed by the Bombay High Court. What happened was that in 2022, after appearing in front of the CBI, the couple was arrested. And in January in 2023, they were given an interim bail, and then the extension was continuously given repeatedly. And that's when a case was filed with the Supreme Court saying that the proceedings are not taking place expeditiously. And when the Apex Court asked the Bombay High Court to take some action in a hurried manner, in an efficient manner, the Bombay High Court came up with confirming the bail that was granted in 2023. Now, what might happen is that the proceedings before the Supreme Court might pick up again against the bail that has now been confirmed, and the status might or might not change. So this is not a hard and fast thing that has happened. Apart from this, we also need to consider that the couple did not ask for the FIR itself to be quashed. They just said that the procedural lapses have taken place with the arrest, and that is why a bail is necessary. The court also noted while granting them bail that the FIR that was filed against the couple only mentioned that they were not cooperating with the authorities, and that is why the arrest was necessary. The court found this to be extremely short and arbitrary and said that this does not warrant an arrest. However, considering that the procedural lapses have actually taken place, the couple was granted a bail. That's all for now.
All right. Thanks so much, Charu, for getting us those details. We have to slip into a very quick break, but we've got a lot of stock-specific action for you on the other side, so do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching All You Need to Know. Let's focus on some of the stocks that you should watch out for in trade today. And Harsh Saita is joining in to tell you about some of those. Harsh, morning. What can you tell us?
Well, good morning, Alex. Let me first take it across to UPL. That one's in focus. It's been in focus this week on the back of earnings, and the negativity doesn't seem to go away for UPL. What Moody's has actually done is they've downgraded UPL to BA1. Outlook continues to remain negative. Let's pull out some numbers with regard to UPL itself. It has around 35,000 crore of debt, which has risen from the 24,000 crore mark at the end of the last financial year. So a huge amount of debt which has come through over the last 6 odd months. Also, in terms of just the sales numbers, those are the numbers. Cash plus inventory plus receivables currently sit at 40,000 crore. It's been going up. It's gone up by around 5 to 6 odd thousand crore over, or rather, it's seen a knock with regard to cash, but the inventory level has gone up, and largely that amount has remained the same over the last 6 to 9 months. So overall, what it seems like is the debt is what is proving to be the burden for the company. It's made a loss in the 9-month FY 24 period as well. So keep an eye out on UPL. That one will be in focus. I'm going to quickly switch it over. We had Man Industries. Ashish Kacholia has purchased shares in Man Industries, 50 crore worth of shares. Man Industries did a pref issue of roughly 250 crore, 50 crore of which was subscribed by Ashish Kacholia alone. This one will be in focus on the back of that. Post this allotment, Ashish Kacholia will own a 2% stake in Man Industries. That one in focus as well. I'm going to quickly switch to the last one. Well, you have Max Life in focus. They've received IRDA approval for the 1,612 crore capital infusion by Axis. This, of course, improves solvency for Max Life. Max Financial is the holder in Max Life, and therefore those the shares of that company will be in focus. Stock was up 5% in trade yesterday. Axis Bank will also be in focus because this has been an overhang for Axis. Mind you, Axis already owns roughly 12% in Max Life, and this will further bolster the holding of Axis to 19%. This has been a key overhang. I did mention that 32 rupees per share is what Axis had bought the 12% stake at. Currently is going to buy it at 113 rupees a share. Of course, CCI approval awaited, and some of the key approvals awaited, but this is, of course, a positive development nonetheless, Alex.
All right. Thanks so much. And certainly stocks to watch in trade. Some of those, of course, already reacting very sharply in trade yesterday. Let's talk about Britannia, which came out with its December quarter numbers. And it turns out that the company saw a significant dip in profit with a margin contraction as well. Sesha is joining in to tell you which way the cookie crumbled. Sesha, what can you tell us?
Right. So Britannia earnings were largely in line with estimates. We have seen revenue rise 1.4% to 4,256 crore. EBITDA grew 0.4%. Profit after tax declined 40.4%. That's a steep decline in profit. But however, that's given that there was an exceptional gain in the base quarter. But even without that, even the profit before exceptional items and tax fell 2% to 761 crore. However, the quarter was marked with intense competition from regional players and continued weakness in rural spending, also owing to the high cost of living. However, there are two key positives in the Britannia earnings. One is that the volumes grew 5.5%. Now, this comes at a time when the industry overall is, they have reported low single-digit volume growth, and the margins have expanded to 19.3%. That's beating estimates. Now, Britannia took price cuts during the quarter, which helped the company to gain market share and volume recovery, is what we understand. It also partnered with more than 29,000 rural distributors to expand reach. As a result, its focus states, which is Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, as well as Uttar Pradesh, outperformed other regions in terms of growth despite a general subdued rural demand. The international business grew in double digits. Going forward, however, the company will stay vigilant on the commodity costs and the evolving geopolitical situation.
For getting us those details. Sticking with earnings then, let's talk about Navin Fluorine as well as JB Chemicals, GSFC. as well as we've got Nykaa as well to talk about. And Mihika has got all of those details for you. Morning, Mihika. What can you tell us?
Good morning, Alex. So yes, we have Nykaa. Well, despite the revenue and the net profit growth, the profits did miss estimates. And revenue was up 18.7%. And this was on the back of the gross merchandise value growth of 29% on a year-on-year basis. EBITDA was up 22%. And margins stood at 5.5%, which the company stated could have been at 6.1% if it hadn't granted ESOPs during the quarter, which led to the margins staying at that range. And the company also approved investment of 150 crores in Nykaa fashion wire rights issue. Then we have Zaggle Prepaid, where revenues were up 8.28%, margins were up 246 basis points, and the net profit was up almost 2 times at 15.22 crores. Now, this was the highest quarterly revenue, but the cyclical trend did continue in Q3 owing to higher spends and transactions. And the finance costs, there was a significant decrease in finance costs due to the repayment of debts. And lastly, we have Naveen, where revenue did miss estimates, but profit did beat estimates. The revenue was impacted by the slower ramp up in the HFO plant and deferral of campaigns on the back of inventory destocking.
Right. Thanks, Mihika, for getting us those details. Let's turn to another FMCG company then, and that's Nestle. It's going to be reporting its numbers for the fourth quarter today, of course. And it is expected that price hikes as well as distribution expansion will drive revenue growth in that quarter. Sesha is back to tell you more. Sesha, what to focus on with regard to Nestle?
Right, Nestle, they follow a calendar year financial reporting. That's why we are saying it's Q4. That's October-December quarter. Now, Nestle India is likely to report a healthy double-digit growth. Revenue is seen up 10.6%. EBITDA is also seen up 15.3%. EBITDA margins are expected to expand by 100 basis points at 23.8%. Net profit is also seen up at about 18.9%. Now, some of the volume growth is seen in the range of 5 to 6% year on year. Nestle, we must remember, shall be less affected by the rural slowdown due to its lower exposure than other companies. Price hikes and distribution expansion in rural is expected to drive the revenue growth. The urban nature of Nestle's portfolio has helped in better absorption of price hikes. So demand is expected to remain steady, led by out-of-home categories. Now, the Maggi market growth is likely to remain under pressure because we know that there is immense competition from local noodles brands. So again, another key thing to watch out for would be the input costs, because prices of cocoa, sugar, and wheat are some of the commodities that have inflated year on year. However, lower milk costs are likely to aid margin. So we will be watching out for the demand out of rural versus urban trend in the raw material prices, competitive intensity, as well as the new.
Got it. All right. Thanks so much, Sesha, for breaking that down for us. Tata Consumer Products is also going to be reporting its third quarter numbers, and we're likely to see a decline in margins and net profit in the quarter gone by. Mahima is joining in to tell you about some of the details there and what the key numbers to watch are. Mahima, over to you. Morning.
Morning, Alex. So as you rightly mentioned, Tata Consumer might see a decline in its PAT and margins. We are expecting that the revenue will grow around 9.7%. However, EBITDA and EBITDA margins might come down, and net profit might see a decline of approximately 4%. Now, this is because demand trends in the consumer staples still remains as a challenging factor for companies like Tata Consumers. We might see some kind of ease in raw material prices, which might aid margins. However, as compared to the last quarter year, we might see a bit of dip in terms of margins. We might see some kind of operating leverage benefits as well, and we can expect a mid to single digit volume growth in the F&B business for Tata Consumers. So key things overall to watch out for Tata Consumers will be signs of improvement in rural consumption, volume growth, and outlook of their international business overall.
Right. Thanks so much, Mahima, for that. Let's turn to Power Grid Corporation of India, and it's also expected to come out with its numbers today. Remember, the stock has been on a tear. Let's get Mihika back to give you some perspective on what to expect. Mihika, what can you tell us?
Yes, the street is expecting modest revenue growth and profitability to be impacted by higher costs. According to Bloomberg estimates, revenues could see a 1.5% year-on-year rise, while EBITDA could rise marginally by 0.7%. But margins are expected to contract at 87% and net profit to just rise maybe 2.3%. The main key variable is that the revenue would be supported by buoyant power generation in Q3 on the surging festive demand, according to Elara. Key sector drivers are rising power demand, the incremental renewables additions that has been seen in the market, and the requirement to add more thermal capacity. However, the transmission capex is moving at a slower pace, and there is rise in competition from the private players. Also, key factor is higher transmission costs, and also the company has made significant acquisitions during the quarter that could have an impact on the balance sheet as well.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for getting us those details, Mika. It's not something we speak about very often in the morning before the start of trade, but also watch out for bond yields. In the US, they have come off just a tad bit from the high point of the previous session. They ended for the 10-year Treasury at around 4.09% overnight. In India, the 10-year is currently standing at 7.09%. And remember, this is something that will be in focus ahead of the monetary policy meeting outcome that will come out tomorrow. Of course, in the call money market, you've seen an interesting update where you've seen the call money rate fall below the repo rate, which is not something that occurs very often, especially in a scenario where over the last few weeks you've had tight liquidity. The fact that the call money rate, which is the interbank rate, has fallen below the repo rate means that the liquidity in the system is easing just a tad bit. But more on that in just a bit. Of course, we're setting you up for everything that you need to know before the start of trade in India Market Open. So do stay tuned for that. This is NDTV Profit.